screen. So here is this week's agenda, and line and movement part 1 is what we're moving on to this week. So for the first 2 weeks, we were working with the elements of art. It's about 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Each of these pictures is a self-portrait by a well-known artist. Although they are portraying very similar things, one main idea that differentiates them is how the artists have used line in their work. Line is one of the 7 elements of art, along with shape, color, texture, form, value, and space. These 7 elements are the building blocks of all art and are a great place to start when analyzing or interpreting works of art. Line is the path created when an object moves from one point to another. In the visual arts, lines are made when you draw or paint marks on a paper or canvas, or when materials such as wood, glass, and metal are bent or shaped. Lines are also made by photographers and filmmakers when they choose how to angle their cameras and how to compose their shots. Lines can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, straight, curved, or free form. They can be thick or thin, light or dark. Sometimes one line can be all of those things. Lines can be described in many ways: dashed, dotted, rough, smooth, zigzag, implied. What qualities do you see in these lines? How would you describe them? Every artist has a unique way of making lines. It's one way of expressing their individual style. This is a self-portrait by Jean-Michel Basquiat. His lines might be described as bold, jagged, almost messy at times. What do these lines make you think of? Why might he have chosen to represent himself in this way? Compare that to the faint, seemingly unfinished quality of this self-portrait by David Hockney. What do his lines suggest to you? Do they make you think or feel differently than the Basquiat self-portrait? If you were drawing a self-portrait, what kinds of lines would you choose to represent yourself? What kinds of lines would communicate the messages you want viewers to think about? The next time you are looking at a sculpture, painting, or drawing, try to notice what kinds of lines are used and interpret what they mean to you.
So that's a nice little overview on what lines are. And what you're going to do this week is a whole bunch of experimenting with lines. So in your packets, you have some 9 by 12 inch drawing paper. And on one of those papers, you're going to make 4 rows of 4 boxes. They could be squares or they could be rectangles. It's totally up to you. On the first row, you're going to fill your boxes with lines that are rectilinear, meaning they're straight, either up and down or side to side, vertical or horizontal. And they all have like 90-degree angles to the outer edges of the box. In the second row, you're going to do diagonal lines. So they're going to be at any angles you want. In the third row, your boxes should be filled with organic lines, which are sort of curvy, wavy, they're more natural kind of lines. And then in the fourth row, you're going to combine lines from the top 3 rows. So each box needs to have vertical and horizontal, diagonal, and curvilinear lines, or organic lines. All of your images need to be original. Please don't copy anything you've seen here. And they should be non-representational with interesting dynamic design solutions. So there's a lot of different ways of putting lines on a piece of paper, and we're looking for interesting ones. And what it means by non-representational is that we don't want you to try to draw something in particular. It should not represent anything. It's okay if what you end up drawing implies something, like it may end up looking architectural or like a map or like trees or spatial depth, but try not to do that from the outset. You can use your lines to direct your viewer's eyes around these boxes. So here are a couple of really nice examples. And what I want you to notice about each one of these is that the lines go all the way to the edges. There isn't anything free floating in the center of these designs. They have done things like repeating lines to create patterns and varying the thicknesses of the lines. You can try to make your lines come towards you, like in this box on the bottom right, or have it look like it's going away from you in areas. And one way to do that is by grouping lines closer together and further apart. Wider lines sometimes look like they're farther away, and skinnier lines look closer. And when you're working with the ones that require straight lines, it might be a good idea to use a ruler or a straight edge or even something like a book, to keep them straight. So that's step one. You're going to do this page with all of these little designs. Step two is choosing one of your sketches from each row to enlarge onto the 4x6-inch white drawing papers that are in your packets. If you don't have your packet, you can take something like a copy paper, any blank piece of white paper, and cut it into 4 even sections. So you're going to end up with 1 rectilinear, 1 diagonal, 1 curvilinear or organic, and 1 that's a combination of all 4. So again, remember that each box needs to have a minimum of 10 lines. When I enlarged my 4 boxes and drew them on here, I found, for one thing, I was going from a square to a rectangle, so that changed my images a little bit. But I also found that I needed to add a few more lines, because it's kind of weird when you make something small and you turn it into something larger, it can look a little bit on the plain side. So don't hesitate to add more to it. So you are going to photograph all 5 of these things and upload them. There's also an opportunity for extra credit if you want to type into the comment box 3 takeaways from the video that we watched. That would be awesome. And I'm going to show you real quick just how to upload 5 images all at once to this assignment so that there's nobody's got. So I'm going to open up the assignment again. And I'm going to go to Submit Assignment. Doing that until you have all 5 pictures, and then you'll click Submit Assignment.